gonna watch this eat.
You do the intro.
I don't want to do the intro. You do the intro. You're better at the intro
You
than I
do
am.
the intro.
You do the intro.
Hello, people of the internet. My mother, because she's the only one that watches our videos. We are here for another lunch. Oh, that was hot. To talk about Deadpool. What do we have today, Kyle?
We're gonna talk about
Pizza.
The
I was
good.
talking about food. What do we have food-wise? We have pizza. We have pizza to eat. And a hot cocoa.
I don't have hot cocoa this time. I have water.
All right, we're going to talk about Deadpool. Just came out this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do, this is a non-spoiler review. We're not going to ruin anything. We'll say things that are not spoilers. We'll just go into the things we like, things we dislike. Score out of 10. Kyle, we will start with you this time, because I went first last video.
Well, if we remember the last time we were able to see Deadpool in live action form, it was in that awful movie X-Men Origins Wolverine. Wow, that was terrible. Just terrible. So for the longest time, Deadpool fans have been wanting a movie to be just about Deadpool and to get the character right, which is exactly what we got out of this movie. Ryan Reynolds and first-time director Tim Miller were able to pull off a spectacular version of Deadpool for the movie world.
I second all of that. Some of the things I liked about this movie is the humor, dude. This movie's hysterical.
From the opening credits onward, you just can't stop laughing.
The cool thing about Deadpool is that he's the only character in comic books that knows he is in a comic book, and that plays into the humor so well in this movie because Deadpool knows he's in a movie. He addresses it, and it's just hysterical. There are so many quick jokes. It's so snippy. The jokes with him, not a spoiler review. Some X-Men characters are in this movie. Watch the trailers.
Don't worry, guys.
His banter with Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead is especially with Negasonic Teenage Warhead. It is hysterical and how funny they are together.
The tie-ins with those X-Men characters work really well with this movie. You would think it would be shoehorned in, but it's quite the opposite. Like, they were just able to play so well with this character, along with the other secondary characters that were involved in this.
And part of that gets to be the fun with breaking the fourth wall, and then he knows he's in a movie, because some of the jokes about the other X-Men are so funny. And there was a few moments where the jokes people kind of laughed, but Kyle and I laughed more because we knew the naming of actors and naming of people. The cool thing about this movie is at its core, the marketing campaign was incredible.
One of the best.
They marketed it like it was a love story. It actually is a love story.
Which is really surprising, and then not that bad of one. Also.
No, I enjoyed the relationship between them. Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth and Thor. I like Robert Downey Jr. and Pepper Potts.
Yeah, they're fine.
I liked Gwen Stacy and Spider-Man and the Amazing Spider-Man's chemistry. But I really like these two chemistries. There's like a montage of them doing very inappropriate things, and it is just hysterical.
But it works so well with the tone of this movie as well, because this is rated R for a reason. Like, there are definitely scenes where you question if this should even be rated NC-17. At least in my opinion, it was.
If you like swearing, if you like gore, if you like naked women, if you like naked men, if you like... That's about it. If you like that, you're going to enjoy this movie quite a bit. Or a few of those things you'll enjoy this movie. You don't even like all of them. As we had a couple friends who got out and said they weren't into a lot of the gore. Some people said that a little bit too much.
A little bit too much
raunchy humor. I loved all that. I love the raunchy humor. The gore was awesome. His fighting was hysterical. Just everything about this movie I just loved so much.
Not only was the fighting hysterical in some parts, but it was really well choreographed, I thought. There was a couple of scenes where it really looked well.
It was not hard to follow at all.
No real shaking cam, everything you could see very well. It was all choreographed so well. There were some action scenes where you would see someone get stabbed or someone get shot, and I would just be taken aback because it just looked so real and just so incredible. It was just great to watch.
Oh, yeah. And, I mean, there's, this is in the trailer. In the trailer, he talks to a taxi driver. I'm just going to tell you, some of the taxi driver's in it a little bit more than you think, and it's pretty funny. Like, if you were not laughing You are entertained by the action in this movie.
It's great. And speaking of the taxi driver, like as I was saying before, a lot of the secondary characters really have moments to shine. Like T.J. Miller's character,
Oh, yeah.
Weasel. You don't. I mean, he doesn't get that much screen time, but when he is, he and Ryan Reynolds just keep going at it with the quippy lines, and it just keeps making you
They are
laugh.
so
more and
funny
more.
together.
The writing is just so awesome with how funny it is. It's just amazing.
It took I think it took Ryan Reynolds, he said, like 6 or 7 years. It might be more than that to get this movie made. And then it was him and the two writers and Tim Miller, the director, wanting this movie to get made for so long. I am so glad they did. And it makes you wonder how Fox is killing it so well by letting them do a movie like this and then killing it with the X-Men, and then they still screw up Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Like, it just shocks me that the same studio is putting out incredible X-Men movies and now an incredible R-rated Deadpool movie, and they still are screwing up the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, it's just weird. They're just so always hit and miss when it comes to some of their franchises. But at least they're getting it right with X-Men, and at least we now know that they can be able to pull off a Deadpool movie. So
Part of the reason Deadpool is so good, too, is because it had a smaller budget. It didn't need $100 million. It was made for like $30 million.
and it still looked good.
Yes, it
still
did.
looked big.
Now, there's you people out there who are like, $30 million, it's so much money. In movie terms, and some of the movies that get made nowadays, that is so small. Like, there are not movies being made for that much money. Like, there are horror movies being made for like a few $1 million, $5 million, $10 million. But most movies are not made for like 30, 40 million anymore. And Deadpool did it with great special effects. Like, Colossus was an entire CGI character.
Yeah.
As we were told in the opening credits.
Yeah.
You'll know what I talk about later. And he looked awesome. He looked
Yeah,
so
I like
cool
that
as a
he looked.
CGI character.
yeah.
The Negasonic Teenage Warhead's powers looked great.
I was really surprised by how well those look. 'Cause I didn't know much about her because she is just a very small character in that X-Men world, but she was able to be pulled off really well, and she looked awesome when she was fighting.
I agree 100%. So, do you have any negatives of this film?
There's not a lot of negatives really to be told about. I will say maybe a couple of hit and misses when it came to the villain. I enjoyed the villain for the most part, but I mean, probably could have delved a little bit more, but that's really just nitpicking in it for the most part.
I really liked the villain, actually. I thought this was one of the better villains we've seen in superhero movies. One thing, I did not have really any negatives, honestly. Anytime I think about the movie, I just laugh because I had a good time. I mean, there's a few moments where it's like, hey, maybe that joke didn't work, maybe this didn't work, but it's just nitpicky stuff. But I love this. I mean, I was laughing, enjoying the comedy, the action, the gore. I loved it all. I love gore, so I really did not have any negatives. I will say this, though. Now, let's rate it. But where do you think it ranks? Because everybody's going to be saying that. This is my favorite, this Marvel movie. Where does it rank in the comic book movie sphere for you? Or do you want me to go first?
You mean for comic book movies of all time? That's what I...
Yeah.
It could now be in the top 10, maybe even top 5, depending on who you ask for best comic book movies of all time. This is one of the more true adaptations of a comic book character being brought into a movie. It's one of the better comic book movies. There's a couple of others that may be better than this, obviously, but it's definitely going to be one of the better ones. I think this one will definitely be in the conversation of one of the best comic book movies. So probably around top 10, top 5 even.
So, I'm not going to do this comparing it to all the other Marvel. I can't do that. Fox has their own thing that's incredible. Marvel has their thing that's great. DC is starting to do something that looks incredible. If you've seen that new Batman v Superman trailer. But for an origin story, it's probably my favorite, maybe second favorite, because before Ant-Man was my favorite origin story out of all the ones I've seen, because I just really enjoyed the Ant-Man one, or the original Iron Man.
I was about to say Iron Man was one of my favorites.
But
Batman Begins too.
like people, pure comic adaptation from the comic book, I think it is the best. I think it's better. I think the best one before Deadpool was Avengers: Age of Ultron. Comic book movie wise, I think it's the best adaptation straight out of a comic book, and it works because of who the character is. Standalone movie though, I really can't compare them. Like, I really enjoyed the origin story. I'm not sure if it's my favorite, but the Marvel Cinematic Universe is so different from Fox's Cinematic Universe, especially because Fox killed it, and then did a few crappy ones, and then X-Men Days of Future Past changed everything a little bit. Like their timeline's a little
I would
wacky.
actually say First Class changed it.
Well, I'm talking about how they, in Days of Future Past, they like had a screwed up future,
Oh, they
changed the
changed-
past, brought people
changed the
back that
timeline.
died,
Yeah.
fixed movies and stuff, which was awesome. I love that movie, but
yeah.
it was like it's a little bit confusing at times. But Deadpool's one of the best movies I've seen in a while. I very much enjoyed it. But in the ranking of comic book movies, it's one of my favorite comic book movies ever. I still love the Avengers. I still love the Dark Knight. I'm excited for Batman v Superman. So yeah, out of 10, I'll go first. I give this a 9.5 out of 10.
Ooh.
Every time I think about it, I smile. Literally every time I
you
think
will.
about the movie, I smile.
And I will give it an 8.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed it a lot. There was a little bits and pieces here and there that I would be nitpicking that didn't work out so well for me, but for the most part, very spot on movie for Deadpool. I think it was a job well done for a first time director. 8.5 out of 10.
All right. See you next time, Internet.